The crowd gathered inside the massive auction hall, lights flickering across rows of alien faces. Traders, soldiers, and nobles from a dozen worlds sat silent, waiting for the next item to appear. Captain Daniel Ward, a retired human soldier, stood near the back, his jacket old and dusty, his eyes cold and sharp. He didn't come here to buy anyone. He came to understand how far this galaxy had fallen. A voice echoed through the hall. Lot number 92. Captured from the wilds of Nero's prime. The curtain pulled back, revealing a small cage of silver bars. Inside, a young alien girl crouched, her hair tangled, her skin faintly glowing blue, her eyes burning with quiet rage. She's untamed, dangerous, unpredictable, the announcer said. The wild girl of Nero's. Trained hunters died trying to capture her. The crowd whispered. Some laughed, others leaned back in fear. Daniel watched her. She wasn't snarling. She wasn't begging. She was simply watching everyone, calm and alert. Her thin hands clutched the bars. Her breathing slow, the auctioneer smirked. Starting bid to 10,000 credits. No one moved. 8,000, he called again. Silence. Half price to 5,000 credits. Still no hand was raised. The girl's eyes scanned the crowd, and for a brief second they locked with Daniel's. There was no hatred there, only exhaustion. And something deeper, hope. Daniel's jaw tightened. He remembered the war, the screams, the cages, the experiments. He thought humanity had left such cruelty behind. Come on, people, the auctioneer shouted. She's half price. The wild one of Nero's. A living weapon. Still, the hall stayed quiet. No one dared to bid. Then Daniel raised his hand. 5,000 credits, he said, his voice steady. The crowd turned to him, whispering. Some laughed. A human? Is he insane? He'll be dead by morning. The auctioneer's eyes widened, then smiled. Sold. To the human fool with a death wish. Guards unlocked the cage. The girl didn't resist as they handed her over. She stood tall, proud even, despite the collar around her neck. Daniel looked at her. You have a name? He asked quietly. She hesitated, then whispered. Lyra, he nodded. You're free now. Lyra, her eyes narrowed. No one is free here, she said. Voice low and rough. Daniel sighed. Then let's change that. Hours later, they rode a transport through the outer colonies. The ship's hum filled the silence between them. You bought me, she said suddenly. Why? Because everyone else saw a monster, Daniel replied. I saw someone who deserved a chance. She looked out the window. Stars reflecting in her eyes. On my world. Humans came with fire, she said. They burned villages. They took people away. I wasn't one of them, Daniel said softly. But I've seen what they did. I left that army long ago. Her head tilted slightly. You're strange for a human. He smiled faintly. That's what they all say. When they landed at an abandoned outpost. Lyra stepped out, feeling the wind for the first time in months. She looked at the open desert, the endless horizon. You could run, Daniel said. No one would stop you, she turned to him. And you? I'd stay here. Fix what I can. For a long time she said nothing. Then she touched the collar on her neck. The metal blinked once and clicked open. She dropped it to the ground. Daniel stared. You could have done that any time? She smiled slightly. I wanted to see if you'd still help me. Then alarms blared. The auction guards had traced the ship. Red lights flashed. Daniel grabbed his rifle. Guess they didn't like the refund policy. Lyra's eyes glowed bright, blue light streaming from her hands. Then let's show them what a wild girl can really do. The guards stormed the outpost. Blasters firing, Daniel rolled behind cover. Returning fire with precision, Lyra leapt into the air, her energy tearing through metal and armor like wind through paper. In minutes, silence returned. The sand outside glowed from the heat. Daniel lowered his rifle, breathing heavy. "Remind me not to make you angry." Lyra grinned for the first time. "Then don't cage me again." He laughed quietly. "Deal." The two walked into the dawn, their shadows stretching across the sand. Behind them, the auction's emblem burned on the wreckage. The galaxy had called her wild, dangerous, untamable. But to one human, she was proof that even in a universe ruled by fear, compassion still had power, and somewhere beyond the stars, others would soon learn what happens when humanity stands for those no one else dares to defend. The desert wind carried dust across the ruins of the old outpost. The twin suns hung low, painting everything in red and gold. Daniel sat near the wreckage of the ship, checking his rifle while Lyra stood on the roof. Watching the horizon in silence, they had survived the first wave of guards. But both knew more would come. The auction guild never forgot, and never forgave those who cost them profit. "You could leave, you know," Daniel said quietly. "You're not chained anymore." Lyra turned, her glowing eyes catching the fading light. "You think I would run?" "You should," he replied. "You're free now." "I'm just a soldier out of his depth." She jumped down lightly, landing beside him. "You bought me, but you didn't try to own me. That makes you different." He looked at her, unsure how to answer. "Different doesn't always mean good." Lyra tilted her head, studying him. "You don't kill for joy. You kill to protect." Daniel gave a tired laugh. "That's a nice way to rewrite my past." Before he could say more, the radio in his jacket crackled. "Attention, Captain Daniel Ward. Surrender immediately. You are charged with violating Galactic Trade Law 17A, harboring stolen property, and resisting guild enforcement." He looked up, eyes narrowing. "They traced us." Lyra raised her hands, and faint blue energy shimmered around them. "Then let them come." "No," Daniel said firmly. "If we fight every time, they'll keep hunting us. We need to move before the next patrol hits." She frowned. "Where?" He pointed to the distant ridge. "There's an old Terran mining base about 20 clicks north. Abandoned after the war, it might still have supplies." Lyra nodded. "In we go." Night fell as they traveled across the dunes. Their footsteps glowed faintly in the starlight, the heat fading into cold wind. Daniel glanced at her. "You don't seem afraid." "I lived in the forests of Nero's prime," she said. "The trees there eat light. The air burns your lungs." Fear became useless. He smiled slightly. "Guess I picked the wrong person to rescue." "Maybe you picked the only one who would stay," she replied softly. For a moment, silence returned, only the hum of the desert and the faint whistle of sand against their boots. At last they reached the mining complex, its towers broken, doors half buried in dust. Daniel forced open the entrance, lights flickering weakly inside. "This place looks dead," he muttered. "Not dead," Lyra said, running her hand along the wall. "Sleeping." She closed her eyes, her hands glowing again. Circuits beneath the metal came alive, lights spreading through the corridor. Daniel blinked. "You can interface with tech?" Lyra smiled faintly. "My people don't build machines. We talk to them." He stared in quiet awe. "I used to think humans were the clever ones." She met his gaze. "You still are. You just forgot how to listen." Hours passed as they scavenged the base, finding old rations, batteries, and one working drone. Daniel fixed its thrusters, while Lyra explored the control room. She found an old holomap of the region, its faint blue light glowing across her face. Dozens of red marks blinked. Guild patrol routes, slave trade hubs, supply lines. When Daniel joined her, she pointed. "These are their paths. If we move along the dead zones, we can reach the outer belt. There's freedom beyond that. Freedom's expensive, he said. But I like the idea. Suddenly, alarms wailed through the base. Daniel's eyes widened. They found us again? Lyra closed her eyes, feeling the hum of the systems. No. Something else triggered the sensors. They ran to the viewing deck. Outside, engines roared as a black gunship descended, dust swirling in waves. A deep voice echoed from the loudspeaker. Captain Ward. Step out with your hands up. You've stolen guild property, and that includes the alien beside you. Daniel gritted his teeth. They just don't quit. Lyra's hair began to lift, glowing with light. Let me deal with them. He shook his head. Not yet. We don't even know who's inside that ship. The gunship doors opened, but instead of guild soldiers, a squad of humans in worn armor stepped out. Their insignia faded but still recognizable. Daniel froze. Terran outriders. But they were disbanded years ago. Their leader removed his helmet, revealing an older man with a scar across his cheek. Ward, he said, still rescuing strays. I see. Lyra's eyes narrowed. You know him? Daniel's expression darkened. Yeah, that's Commander Harlan. He used to be my superior officer. The commander smirked. We need to talk. Old friend, about your new companion. Lyra stepped forward, her voice cold. If you came for me, you'll regret it. Harlan raised his hands calmly. Not here to hurt you, little spark. We just want to make sure you're not what they say you are. Daniel frowned. What do they say? The commander's tone hardened. That she's not a girl. She's a weapon built by Nero's Prime to destroy entire fleets. Daniel glanced at Lyra, her eyes glowing faintly under the dark. She's not a weapon, he said quietly. She's someone they were too afraid to understand. Harlan's gaze turned cold. We'll see about that, Captain. We'll see. The wind howled through the ruins as the tension thickened. Fear, loyalty, and truth now stood on the edge of war. And somewhere deep within the silent base, an ancient system hummed to life, recording everything, waiting for the moment the galaxy would finally learn who the wild girl truly was. The air inside the mining base grew heavy. Dust drifted down from the cracked ceiling. The hum of the old generators mixed with the quiet tension between Daniel, Lyra, and the Terran outriders. Commander Harlan's soldiers surrounded them, rifles half raised. Their armor looked old, but still dangerous. Burn marks from a dozen forgotten battles scarred their suits. Daniel took a slow breath. You came a long way to find me. Harlan, the commander nodded. You made it easy, Ward. A human buying a forbidden alien from a guild auction? That makes headlines. Lyra's eyes glowed faintly. So you're here to take me back. Harlan studied her like she was a puzzle. That depends. Are you the creature they said could melt steel with a scream? She stepped closer, calm but cold. I'm not a creature. Harlan tilted his head. Then prove it, little spark. Daniel moved between them. You don't test people like weapons. Harlan's stare hardened. You don't understand, Ward. Nero's Prime isn't some fairy world. That planet created living energy cores, soldiers grown from storms. And she's one of them. Lyra's voice trembled with anger. My people were never soldiers. We were hunted for what we could do. The lights flickered as her pulse quickened. Blue energy crawled across the floor like mist. Easy, Daniel said softly, placing his hand on her arm. You're safe here? The glow faded. Her breathing steadied. Harlan watched carefully, then lowered his rifle. You trust her that much? Daniel met his eyes. I've seen what fear does. She's not the threat here. You are. The commander sighed, rubbing his scar. Maybe. But the guild's fleet is en route. They want her alive. And they'll burn this moon to get her. Lyra turned to the holomap flickering nearby. How long until they arrive? 1 hour, Harlan said. If we stay, we die. Daniel thought quickly. There's an underground passage under the refinery sector. We can use it to escape through the canyon. Harlan gave a small grin. Still the planner, huh? Someone has to be, Daniel replied. You are always better at breaking things. The soldiers moved fast. Gathering what they could, the base lights dimmed again, flickering as Lyra touched the walls. You're talking to the system again, Daniel said. Curious. It listens, she replied. It wants to help, he frowned. Machines don't want things, Lyra smiled faintly. Yours don't, ours do. They moved into the tunnels. Long corridors of metal and rock. Their footsteps echoed as they descended. Harlan's voice came from behind. Ward, what's your plan after this? Hide forever? Daniel glanced back. Maybe start over somewhere the guild doesn't reach. And her? Harlan nodded toward Lyra. She deserves that chance too, Daniel said simply. The commander scoffed. You always had a soft spot for lost causes. Maybe, Daniel replied. But lost causes made humanity what it is. Before Harlan could answer, the walls shook violently. Alarms screamed through the tunnels. They're here. One of the soldiers shouted, Drop pods breaching Sector 6. Daniel raised his weapon. Move! Go, go. They ran through the narrow path as explosions thundered above. Metal collapsed, sparks rained down. Lyra reached out her hands and a barrier of blue light formed behind them. Blocking the fire, the shockwave hit her hard. She stumbled. Daniel caught her. You okay? She nodded weakly. Just tired. Don't push too hard, he said. You're not alone anymore. They reached the end of the tunnel. A vast chamber filled with a sleeping machine. A giant sphere of metal, ancient and rusted. Cables hanging from its core. What is that? Harlan whispered. Lyra's eyes widened. It's a Nexus engine, a relic of the First Terran War. It can bend space. Daniel frowned. You know how it works? She nodded slowly. I can feel it calling, Harlan cursed. If she powers that thing, it might collapse this whole sector. Lyra looked at him. Or send us far away, somewhere safe. Daniel hesitated. You sure about this? She smiled softly. No, but I trust you. That was enough, he nodded. Then do it. Lyra placed her hands on the cold surface. Her light spread through the cables. The air shimmered. Outside, guild ships descended through the atmosphere. Black clouds of fire blotting the suns. Inside the chamber, everything trembled. Energy filled the room like thunder trapped in a box. Lyra! Daniel shouted over the roar. It's too much. She didn't answer. Her hair flowed like liquid light. Her voice echoed through the chamber. They called me wild. They never understood I was born to be free. A flash consumed everything. When Daniel opened his eyes, silence surrounded him. The sky above was no longer red, but pale blue. Soft clouds drifting peacefully. He turned. Harlan and his team were gone. Only Lyra stood a few meters away, kneeling in the grass, breathing hard. Where are we? Daniel asked. She smiled faintly. Somewhere beyond their maps. He laughed quietly. You actually did it. Lyra looked up at him, her voice gentle. I told you, Daniel. I'm not a weapon. I'm a doorway. He knelt beside her. Then maybe it's time we both walked through. As the twin suns of a new world rose above them, the past faded like dust in the wind, but far behind. In the ruins of the old mining base, the guild ships found only empty ground and a single message carved into the stone. Fear ends where humanity begins. Soft wind moved through the tall silver grass. Daniel squinted against the sunrise, breathing air that actually smelled clean. He had not seen a sky like this since Earth. Lyra walked beside him, her bare feet pressing tiny glowing prints into the soil. The world around them shimmered with color, mountains of crystal blue, rivers that ran like liquid glass. The place felt untouched, alive. This isn't any system I know, Daniel said, scanning the horizon with his visor. No signal. No map data. That's because this place was hidden, Lyra answered quietly. A sanctuary built long before the wars. He frowned. You mean your people built it? She hesitated. Not mine, yours, Daniel froze. Humans? Lyra nodded slowly. Long ago, before the guilds ruled, the first Terran explorers built these sanctuaries. Secret worlds to protect life from extinction. He stared at the endless valley. A mix of wonder and guilt stirring in his chest. And we forgot. Yes, she said. You forgot many good things. They walked for hours until they reached a broken tower near the river. Vines crawling up its metallic sides. Inside, they found a console still glowing faintly with Terran symbols. Daniel brushed off the dust. This is old Earth tech, pre-expansion era. Lyra touched the panel. And the console flickered to life. A hologram appeared, an older man in a Terran officer's uniform. Project Haven protocol active, the hologram said. If you are seeing this, humanity has fallen to corruption. This world exists as a reset point, a place where compassion must be remembered. Daniel's throat tightened. A reset point, he whispered. So this was our last good idea. Lyra looked at him softly. Then maybe it's time you used it. The hologram faded. Leaving silence, night came quickly on this world. Strange twin moons lighting the field, they built a fire near the tower ruins. Daniel stared into the flames. You know, I didn't expect to survive that auction. Lyra smiled faintly. I didn't expect anyone to look at me without fear. He chuckled. Guess we're both full of surprises. She tilted her head. Do all humans laugh after almost dying? Only the stupid brave ones, he said, and she laughed. A sound like soft music carried by the wind. For the first time, Daniel saw her smile without pain. Her glow dimmed to a calm, steady light. Maybe this is what freedom feels like, she said. Maybe, he answered. But freedom never lasts if we hide from what's coming. She turned serious. You think they'll find us? He nodded slowly. The guild always does, and Harlan might still be out there. Chasing the truth about you. Lyra looked toward the sky, her eyes reflecting the stars. Then we need to be ready. The next morning, Daniel found her standing in a circle of ancient stones, the same kind carved with Terran runes. What are you doing? He asked. These are memory stones, she said. They store echoes of thought. I can show you. She placed her hand on one, and light burst outward, filling the air with ghostly shapes. Humans and aliens working side by side, building the sanctuary, planting the fields, laughing together. Daniel stepped closer, awe in his eyes. They lived here together, before the wars, Lyra nodded. This was proof that unity was possible. Until fear destroyed it. He reached out, touching one of the glowing figures. And maybe we can rebuild it. Her gaze softened. You still believe in rebuilding after everything? He smiled faintly. Humans break things, yes. But we're good at fixing too. She looked down. Then fix me, Daniel. Not the body. The part that still remembers the cage. He didn't hesitate. He gently placed his hand over hers. Then let's heal together. The stones pulsed brighter, responding to them both, sending waves of light across the valley, far above. A satellite woke from centuries of silence, its sensors blinking red as it detected life. It transmitted a signal, not to the guild, not to the military, but to something older, deeper, hidden in the dark reaches of space. That night, Daniel awoke to a sound, a low hum like thunder beneath the earth. He grabbed his rifle. Lyra? She was already standing outside, light radiating from her palms. Something's coming. From the sky, streaks of fire descended, not guild ships, but ancient Terran drones, long dormant. Now reactivated by the stones, Daniel's eyes widened. They're responding to you. Lyra shook her head. No. They're responding to both of us. The drone circled above, scanning the area. Then one projected a message into the sky. Terran Sanctuary reboot initiated. Human presence confirmed. Daniel lowered his weapon. Stunned, we didn't just find a new world. Lyra, he said slowly, we just woke up history. She turned to him. Her voice calm but filled with wonder. Then let's make sure it remembers the right kind of humanity this time. The wind blew through the glowing valley, carrying with it the echo of the hologram's old words. A place where compassion must be remembered. And under that alien sky, two souls, one human, one once called wild, stood at the beginning of something far greater than either could imagine. The sky above shimmered with electric light. The ancient Terran drones moved in quiet formation, scanning the valley and the tower ruins. Daniel and Lyra watched as a soft hum filled the air, spreading like a heartbeat through the land. This place is alive, Daniel whispered. It's waking up, Lyra nodded. The sanctuary recognizes your kind again. It remembers humanity, he exhaled slowly. I just hope it remembers the good parts. Suddenly the drones changed color, from blue to red. Alarms echoed across the valley. What's happening? Daniel asked. Lyra's glow flared brighter. Something else connected. Not human. From the far horizon, the sky tore open. A massive guild dreadnought emerged from hyperspace, black and sharp like a blade against the light. They found us, Daniel muttered, gripping his rifle. No, Lyra said, her voice calm. They followed the same signal that woke the sanctuary. The dreadnought began to descend, its shadow swallowing the valley. Daniel felt the old soldier rise inside him again. Then we make our stand here. Lyra looked at him. You would fight for me again? He smiled faintly. No, I'll fight with you. The guild ship unleashed waves of hunter drones, dark clouds moving fast over the plains. Daniel took position behind the fallen tower, firing precise bursts. The air filled with energy bolts and burning dust. Lyra stepped forward, her hands glowing like suns. Daniel, fall back, he shouted over the noise. What are you doing? Her voice echoed through the chaos. I can feel the sanctuary's core. It wants to protect this world. She raised both arms, and the ground trembled. The stones around her lifted into the air, forming a glowing ring. The drones in the sky froze mid-flight. Trapped in a field of blue energy, Daniel shielded his eyes. The light so intense it burned shadows into the sand. The dreadnought above struggled, its engines flaring, metal shrieking as the field pulled against it. Lyra, stop! Daniel shouted. You'll burn yourself out. Her voice trembled. I was created from storms, Daniel. It's time I became one. He ran toward her, grabbing her shoulders. You're not a weapon, remember? She looked up at him, smiling weakly. I'm not ending anything. I'm freeing us. Then she closed her eyes. The light burst outward, brighter than the sun's. Sweeping across the valley, the guild dreadnought fractured like glass. Breaking apart into dust that shimmered and fell like snow. When the light faded, the wind returned, silent and soft. Daniel blinked through the haze. Lyra? She lay in the grass, motionless, her glow dim but steady. He rushed to her side, lifting her gently. You did it, he whispered. You saved us. Her eyes fluttered open. We saved each other, he smiled. That's right. The drones that had survived hovered quietly above them, their lights now soft and golden, projecting the message. Sanctuary status restored. Days passed. The valley healed quickly, the fields blooming with strange flowers that glowed faintly at night. Daniel built a small shelter near the river. Repaired from the remains of the old tower, he often sat outside at dusk, watching the light drift through the air. Lyra recovered slowly, her energy stable but quieter. You should leave, she said one evening. The guild won't stop searching. He shook his head. Then they'll find a man planting a garden, she smiled softly. You really believe this world can last? I do, he said, because it started with kindness. She looked at him, her voice low. When I first saw you at that auction, I thought humans were cruel. I was wrong. He chuckled. Oh, we can be cruel, but sometimes we get it right. They sat together under the twin moons. Silence between them, but peace in their hearts. Weeks later, a transmission flickered to life in the sky. An old Terran signal repeating through the stars. Project Haven restored. Sanctuary active. Human life confirmed. Across distant systems, forgotten satellites woke. AI sentinels turned their gaze back toward the long-lost coordinates of compassion. Daniel looked up at the glowing horizon. They'll come one day, he said quietly. Humans, real ones, not the kind that forgot, Lyra nodded. Then this place will be ready? He turned to her. So will we? A soft breeze carried her laughter through the valley. And somewhere far above, the stars seemed to burn a little brighter. The girl once called wild, and the soldier once called broken, had built something no empire could destroy. A beginning. Not born of fear, but of trust. And when future generations would come searching the records of the old worlds, they would find a name carved into stone beneath the tearing banner. Lyra and Daniel, the ones who remembered.